Ina alhamdulillah, wa salat, wa salam Allah, wa rasulallah. I'd like to welcome everybody to Real Talk here at Sunnahfollowers, to this week's news in review. And alhamdulillah, we have joining us tonight Brother Yusuf Zucovsky to once again give us his take on what's been happening this week while we've been going about our daily lives. So with no further ado, I'm going to turn this over. And by the way, turn your camera on, Brother Yusuf. I'm going to turn this over.
I always wait for the cue. Once you say turn the camera on.
Yeah, mashallah. Yeah, there he is. So here he is Brother Yusuf Zucovsky with this week's interesting news in review. So you can take it away.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody, and we've got big night. I want this to be one of the most watched, inshallah, most powerful discussions we've ever had, because I didn't have a plan for this until Tuesday afternoon, and I started seeing in the news that it looks like they might do it again, and you'll see what I mean by that here in a second. I was kind of taken aback that they would be so soon, and it just engulfed the media cycle. And I guarantee you're not going to hear this anywhere else. I guarantee you have not heard it before from the so-called people in the Muslim community. Only this platform here, where Sister Layla gives me an open mic. Many years ago, Sheikh Jamali had asked me if I wanted to get on camera, and I said, yes, sure, but I need an open mic. And the reason I wanted an open mic was because I wasn't going to be censored. I wasn't going to be told what I could and could not say. I was going to say exactly what's going on. I didn't care if anybody got offended. I didn't care if anybody didn't agree with it, because everything can be proven through high-level argumentation, data, and fact. So the COVID thing was something that was very big, and all of us, it was a major part of our lives, and lots of confusion during that period of time. We're going to pick that apart, though, as we go later, but what I'm saying now is that, yes, they are doing it again. It looks like there could be many motivations. I will highlight all of those here tonight, inshallah, of things that are happening. So what's the story? Well, before it was a rat. Now you've got, a bat. Now you've got a rat. Before, maybe it'll be a cat next. Who knows with these clowns. But so you had this couple was supposedly going bird watching. Interesting pastime. Not many people engage in anymore, but still some of the elderly community does enjoy this. Well, they were going bird watching in a landfill down in South America, and they boarded a cruise ship. Somehow in the landfill, allegedly, they came in contact with the Hantavirus. And quite funny, isn't it, that no one had ever heard of the Hantavirus, hadn't been talked about in mainstream circles. Now CNN and Fox and everybody, they got their guy or lady up there on camera, more than happy to tell you about the Hantavirus and how it's 40% mortality, and how, oh, well, no, initially it's not going to spread. Did we hear that before? We'll get to COVID again later, because, of course, there was a lot of shenanigans going on in the whole thing, in fact. So we're seeing the same thing here. So we see these pictures of a cruise ship. The people are on the cruise ship, and they're traveling, and this couple who went bird watching in a landfill. I mean, I've worked in hazardous waste management. I've worked in occupational safety and health for 17 years. Environmental management kind of overlaps with my job. Landfills are not a place that anybody would want to go sightsee. or go take pictures or watch a bird or whatever. But that's the story, isn't it? It's so ridiculous. It's comical. You've got all these clowns that you can see behind me coming out. Some of the same people we saw just a few short years ago, like Mr. Tedros, the cross-dresser from the World Health Organization. We saw hazmat teams going to the boat. And as someone, again, who worked in hazardous waste management, disposal, spill prevention, and cleanup, those are the worst hazardous waste protocols I've ever seen in my life. We are required when we wear a hazardous materials suit to tape. We have no air gaps. These guys had their sleeves all dangling in the wind. There was even one guy in the back. He didn't even feel like playing dress up at all. He was wearing regular clothes with just one of those phony, ridiculous COVID era cloth face masks. So already I'm sitting here and I'm shaking my head. And I said, are they going to really do it again? Are they going to try to do this? And it looks like maybe right now they are. Hopefully I'm wrong, because we're going to get through the consequences this time for all of us. If we don't fight back, it's going to be something so devastating, as we're going to look at the first shenanigans that they pulled just a few short years ago. So here they are. You're going to see Bill Gates again getting in front of the TV, talking about his vaccine. And oh, guess what on that? Moderna, their stock just did this. It went way up. You know, we're already back up to $50+. They've been flatlining for years. Moderna stock is back up again. Who is Moderna? They are, along with Pfizer, who created the first COVID vaccines that they were forcing people to take against their will. Military, hospital personnel, teachers, the whole shebang. They didn't get me because they never were. They'd have to kill me to put that stuff. We're going to get to that later as to why I was so firm, in this. But Moderna's got a vaccine. It's coming. How convenient, right? Same thing as Operation Warp Speed we heard before, when they released that bioweapon on the American public under the guise of a pandemic. So look, everything's lining up. People in Europe are already saying, well, you might have to mask up again. You might have to do lockdowns again. So how does it spread, right? It's on a boat. These people do exercises all the time, correct, to prevent such things from spreading. But no, of course not. People started flying everywhere around the world, so they have a cover story. This is how it got out. The same way we had the wet market nonsense in China. COVID spread out all over the world through planes, trains, and automobiles. We got the same thing here. We've had people allegedly, and I'm going to use that loosely, have died of contact with people who were on this ship in places like, I believe it was Spain. We heard there's 2 cases now in New Jersey. Imagine that. South Africa also has seen it as well. So yeah, and you're going to say Bill Gates will be back on that telly telling you've got to get vaccinated. Now, just something on Bill Gates before we begin the main body of this today. If anyone's familiar with this gentleman, of course, he's the Microsoft. That's his cover. That he was part of the Windows development, even though Windows was a private government project. What does a window do? It allows you to see into something, right? So you're allowing them to see into your personal finances. You're allowing them to see into your computer. Every computer was packaged with this. It was basically a monopoly for the longest period of time. Bill Gates has been a military asset in the black market for years. And Bill Gates gave a speech, and I'll never forget it. And it's why I'll get to my revelation on COVID here in a minute. But I saw this almost live back in 2008 when Bill Gates got on the camera. He was speaking in a group, and he was talking about population reduction. And he said basically one of the ways that they were going to do that was with vaccines. Interesting. I thought vaccines were supposed to save lives, which would then increase the population, wouldn't it? Be less people were dying from communicable diseases and other things. So shouldn't it be growing the population? But no, he used vaccines specifically as something that was going to be used to bring the population down. Limited wars, vaccinations. This is their end game. Pay attention, please, because everything you're going to see unfolding, just like we're going to connect the dots of the past. So then you got the man saying this, a billionaire philanthropist saying there's too many people in the world and taking vaccines is going to help us get that down. And then he comes out in 2020 and he says numerous times on camera, he says, 1 death from this virus is too many. So he all of a sudden cares about life. Now, someone believes this. I mean, they have a special place in the Hall of Fame of being a moron or being a sheep, for lack of a better term, that this gentleman actually cared, that much. It was that passionate to him. He did his videos along with the clowns like Dr. Fauci and Miss Burke, Scarf Lady, as she was affectionately or unaffectionately referred to. They were part of the scenery of this scam. So let's turn back the clock to connect the dots to the present day. So many people in the Muslim community during this period of time. I moved here to a new city during the heart of this, and I wanted to go to the masjid here to try to get acquainted with the community. And immediately the first thing I noticed was they were requiring masks. They were requiring you to bring your own prayer rugs, that you were to pray in an un-sunnah-like fashion. There's more pictures of the ridiculous hazmat. Look at the guy in the back of the blue shirt. I mean, he's not protected at all. They are laughing at you. They're mocking you with this. So I try to go to this masjid, and I said, okay, you're doing that. I'm not coming. It's that simple. I'm not wearing a mask. I'll talk about the damages of those coming up here in a little bit too. I'm not taking part in your charade. You are misleading the Muslim community. You have no courage. You have no taqwa. You have nothing. You are a sheep and a servant of the state. And that's what I felt of the imam there at the time. That's what I felt about all the Muslim community, with the exception of a few. To his defense, I've been very critical of Muhammad Hijab over the years. Muhammad Hijab actually was one of the only voices out there that was warning people to not take this vaccine. But he was really, to be honest, the only one I can recall in the mainstream Muslim circles. So you go back in the beginning of COVID, you have this outlandish story of a wet market and bats, eating raw bats and all this other thing. And this is a mutated virus. And then at first, when I heard this, I was thinking, okay, here goes an Ebola thing. What they're going to try to do here is they're going to try to build up funding for the World Health Organization, for the CDC, because these groups, they take our tax dollars, just like NASA does, and they get grants from the government, from our money, to do research to prevent supposed pandemics. So it's not out of the realm for them to kind of spice something up a little bit, to try to get some of that extra funding. And that's what I thought initially this whole thing was. But then when I saw what was going on in Europe, where they showed a picture of a hospital in Italy that was filled with dead people, allegedly, people in, hazmat material and everything, it struck me as a bit odd. So I had done some research on that photograph and found out that that was a photograph of something from 2006. And right then I'm like, okay, but where are they going with this? Now, I had been preparing intellectually my whole life for a moment like this. I knew they were going to do something. They've been working with experimental vaccine technologies to alter our DNA, to change us as human beings, human being 2.0. I did a presentation talking about Muslim 2.0, which was a cultural transformation of the Muslim community. Well, human 2.0 is a genetic transformation of the human being. This was the moment. And I started saying to myself at the time, is this really it? Are they going for it now? Are they going to do this now and here and now? And as it went by, you started seeing Europe's lockdown. And you had all the politicians in America were dismissing it. They were saying, oh, no, we're not going to do that. It's not serious. Then all of a sudden came March, and then bang. You heard the famous phrase, 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Everybody had to stay home. If you were a non-essential business, which I was working for an essential business, so I continued to go to work, you were not allowed to work. You couldn't get a check. People were not able to pay their bills. Largely the reason we see the rent is in the shape that it's in right now is due to this. We're going to get to all the economic impacts of this, how it really transformed and wrecked our lives. Now it started getting a bit fishy. I was wondering at that time, is this real? Is there actually a virus, or are they pulling some high-tech sorcery? So my receptors and my light bulb in my head was really going off at this moment in time. I started getting into this a little bit more. And there was almost like a voice that had came to me, like a vision of sorts, that said the case is in the test. If you understand the test, you're going to solve the case. How are they getting the cases up? How are all these people supposedly testing positive for this thing? We're not hearing of anyone dying. I'm not seeing anyone die. No one in my work is dying. Nobody in my work is getting sick. No one of them is getting sick. How are they? What is going on here? Where are they getting the numbers from? And then I came across a gentleman named Kary Mullis. Kary Mullis was a biochemist, American, died December 19th, 2019, just a few months before they would pull the scam. That's no coincidence, because this gentleman would have easily exposed the fraud of the case. They use what they call the polymerase chain reaction test. This is the famous, which we're going to get to that here in a minute. So what this did, or what it was designed by Dr. Mullis, was to amplify DNA. They called this a molecular photocopying process. So before this, there wasn't enough DNA available for analysis. It was slow. It was very difficult. But when the PCR came out, you could create billions of copies of DNA sequences. And you could basically, like I said, it's kind of like a molecular photocopier. It improved genetic research because now you could go back and analyze genes, study DNA, look for tendencies and patterns. You could basically go back in time in an organism's life and find infection, find all kinds of other things. He designed it to help find cures for things like sickle cell anemia and other diseases that have been plaguing people for centuries. So again, and then of course, it would detect the body's history being the key word here, of fighting off virus and infection. So it was all about improving humanity, not to its detriment. Forensics and genealogy was also a big part of this. You could basically use small amounts of blood and hair follicles and things to do pretty thorough investigations on the genetic track of a human being. Never meant to test for current infection, but this was the test that they were using. They were literally using a test that's not testing for the virus. The higher cycle you go, the more deeper into the genetic history you've got. If I touch my desk and I rub my nose, I'm taking in bacteria. I'm taking in all kinds of things that we cannot see. My body and my immune system is fighting those off. It happens all the time. If you take my sequence and you map it and you go back, you're going to find an infection depending on the cycles. Smaller cycles, you're going to find less, maybe none currently. You go deeper, you're bound to find something. This is very key to understanding how they pulled this thing off, particularly in the summer months. So if you want to fake something, the first thing you do, you let the public know. You show the images of the bodies. You show all the iconic images that we saw during the beginning of the pandemic. You show people dead. You show people in hospitals. But then you lock the people up so they can't actually go out and see that the hospitals are not full. That's another thing we're going to get to here in a minute. So you do that. The next thing you've got to do is you got to give symptoms for said virus. So what did they do? They came out with a laundry list of symptoms for this thing. Runny nose, sore throat, fever. Sound familiar? We've had it all. We're human. We get sick every year, usually on average. Cold chills. They even went as far as they have back pain. It's like, so if you've been working out in the gym, doing your lower back, and you got some back pain, oh man, I might have it. I need to go take the PCR test and find out. Again, you've got to create something so broad because the goal was to get them to the PCR place. So you create the image, you get the public mesmerized by the photos and everything that they're seeing. Now you take them to the place, go get your test. Now, what did they do? This is very key to understanding the scam. They took that long rod, didn't they? And they shoved it way up the nostrils of people. I saw videos that made me so angry of young boys with blood pouring out of their nostrils from their sicko parents, taking them down to let this procedure be done on them. I said from the beginning to my company, I said, the minute you send me to take one of those, you consider my resignation on your table the same day, because I knew exactly what they were doing. If you ram a rod up someone's nose with little gauze on, what you're going to do is puncture a nerve called the olfactory nerves. These are right in here. They're responsible for what? The sense of smell. Interesting, huh? So you go in there and you boop, They swab around, they break the blood-brain barrier, whatever was on that tip. I've heard mixed things on that. But they are puncturing your olfactory nerve. So guess what? There was no sense of smell. Interesting. What was one of the symptoms? I left that out on purpose. No sense of smell. You lost your smell. I still have people to this day. Well, I can't smell like I used to. Well, you think? You let them do this to you. Is there any mystery why? If I go and take a blade and slice my arm open, and I say to someone 2 years later, well, I don't have the same sensation anymore. You wonder why, huh? No mystery. So now the person's got the back pain, they got the sniffles, they go into the place, and ask yourself this: if there really was a virus, if there really was a pandemic, would you want to bring people together in mass who think they might have it? What would that do? Every 5 to 6 people who think they do but they don't would be getting it from those who do. I mean, this would make absolutely zero sense, except for the fact it's a scam. They needed you to go in there because they needed to use the case numbers to perpetuate the lockdowns. So now you got one other thing left. What about people who aren't getting sick? How are we going to get them sick? Well, this is one way. They're going to lose their sense of smell. Doctors telling you lose your sense of smell, you've got COVID. So now you're going to bleed. Plus, if you puncture your blood-brain barrier, you're probably going to get sick. But then the other thing they did, which was very key to the scam, was the masks. I've been putting respirators on people since 2009. I've gone through the fit testing procedures. I've gone through cartridge selection, respirator types, all for whatever we had in the workplace, whether we were dealing with nuisance dust, whether we were dealing with asbestos fibers, potentially silica fibers. When this started happening, I just said, here we go. This is so obvious what they're doing. They're making people wear a piece of cloth on their face, which does not have a two-way valve. So when you exhale, your exhaust, it has a place to go out. The fresh air has a place to come in. When you're wearing this, all you are doing is building up moisture on the scarf and taking that stuff back into your lungs. So guess what's going to happen? You are again going to get what? Sick. You're going to go to them. They're going to ram you up the nose. And then all of a sudden, you're going to be told you have COVID. There you go. You've got COVID. You're going to believe it now because you're sick. Well, if you deprive yourself of clean air, you deprive yourself of sunlight. Remember that? They told us you couldn't go to the beach. The beach was bad. The beach was spreading it. But guess what? Where was it spreading it? Walmart. Walmart was completely halal. It was safe. You could go to Walmart. Everybody started noticing after a little bit how ridiculous this stuff started to sound. You could go to Walmart. You could go to Target. You could go to all the billion-dollar multinational corporations, but you could not go to the beach. They were chaining the swings together so the children couldn't play on the park because they want you out of the sun. They want you in a mask all day. Even the clown, the Jesuit Dr. Fauci, said you should wear the mask in your house. There were even people who were wearing the mask in the house with their wife and their kids. I saw families coming out together, all wearing the mask out of their homes, all in the car together with the masks on, just getting themselves sick, going to these people and being told basically that they have some phony disease. And where was the big scam of that? What did they accomplish? Well, there's two main points. Point number one is obvious for anybody paying bills or buying groceries to this day. They destroyed the economy. They completely wrecked it. They took all these loans and printed all this money to give these businesses bribes to shut down. These businesses didn't want to shut down, but when they took taxpayer money and printed money out of thin air and gave them bribes to shut down, they did. They had no problem doing it. People were not allowed to work. I remember before COVID, the price of sirloin steaks were four in a pack for $7.50. After COVID, it was $22. They disrupted the supply chains. They crippled numerous small businesses that never recovered. But McDonald's was allowed to be open. Again, Walmart, Target, Amazon was allowed to do deliveries. They grew tremendously during this period of time while the small businessman was suffering. Some of them, of course, did not even make it. Inflation went on steroids in this country. None of our lives have ever been the same. You know, everybody knows now how miserable they are because they can't afford anything. You can trace it directly back to this time period when they pulled the rug out from under humanity. And literally, these guys simultaneously shut the world down. No one had ever done anything like this in history. This was so well planned, well thought out, and totally orchestrated. A couple of weeks ago, when I was talking about Iran, there's a lot of people in the truth community that think Iran is some kind of a freedom fighting nation, that Iran is fighting the great Satan of Israel and the United States. It was all a show. Because when push came to shove, Iran locked their people up, just like the rest of the world did, just like Europe did, just like Asia did, just like America did. There's a few leaders in Africa who took a stand. One such individual, I wish I remembered his name off the top of my head, they murdered him. And he swiped a papaya fruit, and he sent it into the PCR test. And guess what? It came back positive for COVID because they knew. They knew it was a joke. They knew the whole thing was a scam. And it was all about basically ruining our quality of life. And the second part we're going to get to here in a second, the vaccine. So this was a very, again, well orchestrated, well thought out plan. And then they even do what they always do, these Satanists. They mock you. So what started popping up during the lockdowns? The famous dancing nurses. Everybody's got to remember this. You saw all the nurses twerking, choreographed routines like out of a Michael Jackson video from the 1980s. I mean, they're dancing in perfect, symmetry. I mean, these are all people. They had the guy, one where the guy would get in the front, and he would kind of do a freestyle dance, and you had all the nurses synchronized behind. They were making video after video and uploading it, mocking us like, you believe this, you idiots, totally laughing in the public's face while they're pulling the rug out from under you financially. They ended up bribing the hospitals. This was another part of the scam, was the deaths. CNN used to keep a death tracker, up where every day they show you the deaths. They keep going up. It's coming for you. You need to believe we got a plan on the way. We'll help you. And what were the deaths? There were a lot of them that were quite comical. One guy got killed in a drive-by. They swabbed his nose. Every COVID death they turned in, the hospitals got. But what was it? I can't even remember the numbers. It was a huge amount of money, tens of thousands of dollars for every diagnosis, because this was bribe money. They were giving the private hospitals money to keep up with the scam because they were canceling the surgeries and the things that they usually make money off of. You had a guy with a motorcycle crash. There was a famous story of a guy who had major sunburn out in San Diego, and he went to the hospital because his skin had turned purple. He was a very fair complexion, Caucasian American, and he went in there and they basically swabbed him with the shove of death. They found COVID and they put him on a ventilator, and he died. And that was another early part that I'm transitioning to, was the ventilators. Donald Trump came out and gave taxpayer money to buy massive amounts of these ventilators. And if you go do any research about what this does, you put somebody who doesn't need it on a ventilator, you were going to kill them. And they were literally murdering people with these in the hospitals. People who there wasn't a thing wrong with them except what they went to the hospital for were being strapped to ventilators and being murdered wholesale, all for the sake of this scam. But help was on the way. And I remember in work at the time, as me being the EHS, environmental health and safety manager for my company, we had a big meeting about this. And they all looked at me and they said, well, this is a safety issue. What do you want to do? And I said, well, it ain't real, nothing. And they told me that's not good enough. And they wanted me to mandate masks in the factory that I was working at. And I said, okay, I'm going to give you a peer research paper on the harms, basically, of these face masks on people wearing cloth face masks or even respirators for prolonged periods of time, even the good ones. And they said, we don't want to see that. We have no desire to see the truth. We're making everybody wear masks. And I said, again, what I said before, I said, well, I'm not wearing it. And they kind of got angry with me and they didn't fire me, ironically, because I believe if you stand on your convictions, Allah will protect you. Allah may bless you with immunity there, or if you do get fired, he was going to give you a refuge somewhere else. But I stood on my ground, so I'm not wearing it, and I'm not enforcing it. I'm not writing an employee up for not wearing it. I'm not going to force anyone in this plant to wear it. And I told them, you don't see it, people. The vaccine is coming. because it's always been about getting that vaccine, as Bill Gates going how I opened today, how he started off vaccines to lower the population. So what happened? Here it came in the summer of 2020. It's ready. It's coming. It came out a few months at the end. I think it was August, September. They did the official rollout. They skipped the trials, just put it straight to the market. And guess what? Here's the kicker. It was free. Now, right there, I got some land to sell you if you believe these guys care about your health enough that they would give you something for free. Just ask yourself that question. If you have diabetes, how much is insulin? If you have any broken arm, torn ligament, and you go into these people for any kind of treatment, how much are they going to charge you in the United States? I'm not speaking on other countries. I'm speaking here as an American. How much are they going to take out of you? If you want to have a child and you're not on Medicare, how much are they going to take from you? Or Medicaid, I mean. How much? Some say as high as $20,000 if you want to have a birth without being a part of some government assistance. But yet now they're saying, oh, no, we love you. We want to save you. It's for free. And people bought this. I mean, it was unbelievable time to be alive. And it's like, come on, people, think, wake up. You think these guys of anybody, what their history is, the wars, the famines, the murders, the corruption, all of a sudden they care about saving every human life. And I told people I was working with at the time, I said, they're going to mandate this thing. And it's going to get quite interesting. And I said prayers to Allah. I needed to take care of my family. I was not taking this over my dead body. They were going to put this mRNA, we'll get to that in a second, technology into my body. And Allah opened a door for me, and I got out of that company. I was able to move on and go to a place that was a family-owned private business. He obviously was not going to mandate this on me, and I was able to continue to earn a living throughout the duration of this. But there were a lot of people that were laid off. Now, they've gotten their money back, the ones who trusted in God. They trusted in Allah. They got laid off. And guess what? They're winning lawsuits to this day for back pay, plus damages, plus everything else, because they never had a right to do it. They tricked everybody into being afraid. Some people did it willingly. Other people were coerced into doing it. A lot of those companies are gotten sued, to the ground since then. The military had to pay for every soldier they discharged. Back pay, damages, and brought back with pay raises. We've seen this all over the private sector, as well. And when Joe Biden got in, you knew when a Democrat got in there. Because if you look during the COVID scam at the states that were the worst, the usual ones, the ones we talk about on this platform, California, New York, Michigan, Washington, I said Seattle, Oregon. These were all the places that Oregon just still had mask mandates, not even more than a year ago. They still were not letting this go. They still have people in coffee shops in Oregon wearing these things, getting sick, ruining their immune systems. So what was this vaccine? Well, digging up a little bit of research over the years, I knew it was coming. I've been waiting my whole life for a forced vaccination program. So what they wanted to do was, number one, and they just said this again off this phony Hantavirus, was Tedros, the cross-dresser. Literally, he wears women's clothes. If you don't believe me, you can Google that one. The cross-dresser Tedros came out and said, we need a worldwide system for health monitoring. That sounds good. They want to monitor your health. Again, they love you. They care. This is about stopping you from traveling without having all these shots. So what it's going to be is a card or an ID that's going to have eventually a chip in your hand. That's the end goal always. We talked about that here before. So you want to fly to Buenos Aires, Argentina, I got to scan you. I got to see how many vaccines you've taken. If you haven't taken all the ones that we're requiring, well, you ain't going nowhere, buddy. You ain't going to go in that grocery store anymore if you don't have all those vaccines, buddy. You're not going here, there, or there without those vaccines. And that was the end goal. They experimented on this a little bit in Europe because Europe, unlike America, in America, we have to have cars. Our cities, unless you live in New York or LA, these places, that you can't really walk anywhere. Like if I tried to walk to the nearest grocery store where I live, it'd be an hour to get there, an hour to get back. But over there in Europe, you rely on public transportation. You walk a lot more. than you do here in America. So they were doing it in France where you couldn't get on the buses if you didn't have the vaccination card. England dabbled in it, no surprise there, and what a fascist state that is. They were doing the same thing, or trying to do. People pushed back a little bit when it got to this level. So they wanted the vaccine as part of a series. They talked about the boosters. You got to get your boosters, the new variant coming out. Well, what are these vaccines again? We talked about the population reduction. How? What are they doing? Well, since they've been administered, we've seen miscarriages up over 300% in the Western world. Women are basically losing babies. You're seeing birth rates in every country are down. Places that used to have high birth rates, like India, Pakistan, the birth rates are going down. Birth rates are going down all over Asia, but they're going down even more here in the Western world. And again, Bill Gates called his shot back in 2008 when he told you vaccines were going to be used to reduce the population. So this is mRNA technology. Most people didn't even know what mRNA technology is. mRNA technology was something they thought was new, even though they've been trying to get the patents for this stuff going back 20 years. Originally, when Fauci submitted a patent for this stuff, he was rejected. They told him, you haven't shown me how this helps anyone. All we see here is damage. In 2008, I believe it was, they got it finally approved, the patent for this technology, and they started using it in experiments up into the next few years. They were getting ready for this moment. Because mRNA, what it does, it gets inside you and it changes you. It gets your body to produce spike proteins. And your white blood cells, your leukocytes, have something called a macrophage. Macrophages are Latin translation, small thing that eats. This is your immune system, the glory of God, the glory of Allah here, eating up infectious material in your body and removing it chemically. So you're producing these spike proteins initially to train the macrophages to recognize those spike proteins. They start devouring them. But what happens? There's no off switch. So those will eat anything that resembles the sequence. We deal with this all the time with things like cement and concrete. If someone gets respiratory sensitized to a certain substance, that means they have an inflammatory response in their lung where their immune system is overwhelmed every time they see the invader. Well, what's interesting about that is that sometimes the invader may not even be the same invader, it may not be the same foreign substance. It's a substance that resembles this substance. So it will attack that at will as well. They're like Pac-Man, gobbling it up. And you're producing spike proteins for them to train to fight. So what if those spike proteins resemble some human qualities, human cells? What will they do then? They will eat them. They will attack them. A lot of people propose as attacking the placenta-forming proteins in the woman, which is preventing the woman from developing the baby safely and healthy, causing these miscarriages and all these other problems. We're seeing blood clots popping up in people left and right, because the polarity of these blood cells is being changed by this mRNA technology. And it's bringing the blood together opposed to keeping the blood cells apart as God intended it. So you're having an altered human being, a human being who's not as Allah made him anymore. The good news for those of you who did take it was that a couple of people had stolen crates of these things and had them analyzed. This was going on back in 2022. And they found that about 60% of these things were just completely saline. There was nothing in them. They were harmless. I've known people that have had them and nothing has happened to them at all. Most likely they got saline, but then we had an incident in my company a couple of weeks ago where a healthy 21-year-old, tip-top shape, athlete type physique, he just collapsed of a heart attack at 21. No drug history, wasn't doing cocaine or crystal meth, healthy young man, just hit the ground. We've seen professional athletes, tennis players, and others all over the world falling down from heart inflammation, all kinds of different conditions because of this. You never saw this before, but you're seeing it now. But the quiet killer of it is the immunity. It's not the immunity, but the fertility. Your immune system is also compromised as well. That's why I ended up saying that one a bit earlier. But main thing with the fertility, bringing the birth rates down. And I know a lot of times when you get fooled, it's human nature to kind of get defensive and try to shoot the messenger and try to justify your decision. I mean, getting fooled is part of life. I mean, we've all been tricked or swindled or conned by numerous people with ill intent. But the point of me being here on this platform is that you don't get hooked and swindled anymore by these guys, because you know when these guys are selling it, it's bad for you. That's all you need to know. Then you can go and do the research later and start finding out all the different ways that it is. But you should know initially, if they are pushing it, it's not good for you. Still in personal life, we meet friends, we get betrayed. It's just part of life. And part of letting go of the human ego is understanding maybe I was wrong. I got fooled once, but I'm not going to get fooled again. And with all we've seen, with how they've wrecked our world, how they put a bioweapon into people who still, I believe, the story of the damages of this vaccine are not yet told. We are going to see more. There's lots of people who propose that the nanoparticles that are contained within these, graphene oxide being one of them, that they bond together when they are exposed to high levels of RF radiation, which is quite an interesting theory when you look at the fact that the 5G towers, when did they do the 5G rollouts? They did them while everybody was locked in their homes, living away from the world. They made sure to get that stuff done and online, that they turn that signal up. What could happen inside someone's bodies? Don't know. That's just a theory. A lot of people more brilliant in this field than me have proposed that. It's just something I'm keeping an eye on. But the story's not over yet, because are they going to do it again? Now, as I said in the opening, they could be doing this for funding. They could be doing this as a test. This could be used to cover up the deaths that they know they planted in these vaccines. It's going to start happening to people soon. So you start seeing people start dying at irregular rates. They can just say, okay, it's the Hantavirus. Hantavirus was listed in the COVID side effect sheet as events to watch out for. They literally, it's there. It's there, right there, crystal clear, black and white. The Hantavirus is there. This is something in the future they should look out for, as an outbreak of the Hantavirus as a symptom of giving this vaccine out. Interesting, huh? And they have to do this. They have to call the shots. This is the way of the shaitan. The shaitan will never make you do anything. As the shaitan says famously in the Quran, you didn't have to listen to me. You chose to. I'm absolved from this. My hands are clean. All I did was whisper. All I did was say, hey, you should do that. You went and did it. The free will is on you. Allah is going to judge you. And Allah will always find a way out for us. If they try this lockdown shenanigans again, I will not comply. I did not comply the first time. I will not comply this time if that's the direction they're going. But as I mentioned, this is something I felt had to get out. One of my proudest moments of doing this. If I had more time to prepare, I could really give a month by month with the dates and the exact times of when this happened. But other things, the COVID I want to touch on before I close was the Masonic symbolism that we saw throughout this thing. Like right from the beginning, they showed cases in India. It was like 33 dead. I saw that on my TV. I just shook my head and laughed. I said, there you go, man, 33. There was a famous football player, Damar Hamlin, who had taken a shot to the chest, and he had heart failure on the field. I was watching this football game with my son, and the ambulance pulls up to take Damar Hamlin to the hospital, and there was the 33 number was on that bus. We saw them use 33 throughout the pandemic. Numbers of hospitals, numbers of cases, numbers of new deaths. Now, guess what? With the Hantavirus, it's exactly 33 years since the last time America had any kind of cases of this stuff. So you got that 33, big Masonic number there, calling their shots, as they always do, telling you what they're doing, putting the truth in your face, and just saying, you're going to figure this out, you're going to fall for it again. And I hope nobody does, because like I said, you're not going to see this from the social media Muslims. You're not going to see this at all. They're going to go back to debating scholarly issues from the 1200s. They're going to continue to ignore stuff like this. They're not going to talk about what really matters in our lives at this point, what we're up against. You're not going to see it from the imams. You know, you're going to, if anything, they're going to tell you to wear the mask again. And I was ashamed, to be honest. The only people that were fighting back against this stuff were the Christians. You saw Christian pastors refusing to put COVID stuff on their churches. And power to them. I wish we would have saw one imam, one, come out and say, no, we're praying normal. We're not wearing masks in here. We're not falling for this. It's a scam. But no, they were giving huppahs, encouraging people to go to the pharmacy and take their vaccine. Now, pharmacy, interesting choice of words, these guys. If you go and you look up the Greek, and the Greek word for black magic and sorcery is what? Pharmakia. Interesting. So when you go to a pharmacist, you are literally going to a practitioner of black magic. That's what it says. That's the origin of the word. You're going to a pharmacy. You're going to a place of black magic. Pharmakia, if you don't believe me, Google that one. It's in the New Testament, in the Greek, right there, clear as day. Black magic, sorcery was pharmakia. They don't choose their words by accident. They're all there for a purpose. The same way you use the word media. Where does the word media come from? There was a group known as the Medes. What were the Medes into? They were into black magic. They were into sorcery. They used to mediate, where you get the word mediate. You get the media, sorcery, black magic. The Medes used to use something in their rituals. What they call that? Hollywood. So you have the big sign. You have the iconography there, Hollywood. It's sorcery, just like pharmakia. So please, brothers and sisters, listen to what I've said tonight and read for yourself. Don't just take what I say. But I'm not saying definitively they're doing it again, but the early signs are matching the same scam they've done before. And they'll do the same scam again and again until basically they get stopped. They got away with it the first time. People didn't do anything. People mindlessly, okay, master, you say do this, I'll do this. Say wear a mask. People wearing two. There were people wearing two masks during this period of time. We had a guy show up to my company, and I laughed in his face. I didn't care if he got mad. He was wearing the full face shield with the two masks on underneath. And I just say, hey, you're kidding me. You're so far gone, man. I don't even know if I can reach you, at this point. You bought the propaganda hook, line, and sinker. So want to talk about that tonight. We can close up 10 minutes of questions, comments on this. We got about 10 to 15 minutes left in the hour. Any questions, comments?
What came to my mind? Allah says, I put you on a ship, and when you get out there, you're just concerned about me. Once you get on land, that's it. You forget all about me. And I was saying to myself, those people go out on ships all the time. Don't they know viruses are out there? Because this isn't the first time, ships have had viruses on them. But people love to get on ships to ride around. SubhanAllah, but it's a good lecture, brother. Good lecture.
Well, I don't believe there's a virus at this point, to be honest, because this ship was owned and connected to basically one of these companies. I was Pharmakia, medical research and whatnot. The whole thing reeks of a psyop. That they basically, as I said, the hazmat suits from the beginning, they were not even put on correctly. If there was really a 40% chance, if you're exposed to what they're claiming that can now be human to human contact, no one would be dressed like that. They are basically mocking us. Again, there's nothing on a ship. You would never see the authorities let these people go and start letting them get on planes. It's a cover story for what they've got planned. And we're going to see the same charade. It looks like, hopefully not. Hopefully people woke up enough the first time that they're not going to fall for it again.
And one of the sisters here typed on YouTube, I was terminated from my job for not getting the vaccine.
Did she sue the company? She should. Or should have, past tense. Because people are winning everywhere now on this. Let them play. They need to pay. For what they did to people. It's a crime against humanity. And I've known people who sued and won, personally. I've seen stories of people who've also done the same as well. So I recommend, yeah, I mean, hardships, damages. They have no right to do that. They legally cannot do that. Because again, I used to love asking the sheep during this, if you're vaccinated, why are you worried if I am? Why does my vaccine have to be there for yours to work? So they couldn't ever answer that because the experts didn't plant them the phrase wind up toy and let it roll, you know? 6 foot distance, 6 foot distance. Okay, okay, okay.
And another person.
They even were spreading. What were you saying?
She typed, I didn't. I'm a nurse and just went to a different company. There I had to test myself twice a week.
Well, alhamdulillah, you found work. I said, Allah will always, probably you might be happier at this job than you would have been in your last. Allah always, if there's a door closed on you for doing something righteous, He'll open a better one. And I firmly believe I've seen nothing but evidence of that my whole life. At any time I stood on my ground and I left somewhere, Allah opened a better door.
She said,
because
she said, alhamdulillah. Yeah.
Because if it wasn't for that company being the way they were with these, I wouldn't have come to the city I'm in. I would not have met Sheikh Ibrahim. I would not be here right now. So, I mean, Allah put me on a path that there was no avoiding. It was my qadr, it was my destiny. And, you know, they weren't putting it in me. And I was willing to go out in the blaze of glory as in the movies before I would ever put that in my children or anybody in my family.
Another person typed, respectfully, my friend was in the hospital when COVID happened. I don't know about the virus on the ship, but my friend was in hospital and he did get the COVID.
Well, again, how do you know he got the COVID? I just broke down the test that they used was not testing for the virus. So they told him that he had COVID. People get sick. In fact, if you go look at the flu deaths in the year of 2021, there's basically zero. People die of the flu every year. Most people are not aware of that, but it happens all the time. So what they did was they took the flu and just changed the name and came up with a phony test, a PCR test, not a phony test, but it's a test that was not testing for the virus. I knew a woman, she came to me when I was saying things at work. She's like, well, my father, you know, like died of COVID. How are you saying it's not real? And I said, how do you know he died of COVID? And I found out by a series of questions that her father had been sick for years. And what happened was the hospital gave him that PCR test, and then they listed it as COVID. So on those death certificates, it says COVID, the hospital got money. That's how the scam worked. So respectfully, just showing the facts and evidences here, the test does not test the virus. And yeah, I'm sure he did test positive for COVID. Everybody did who went in there during those times, especially in the summer months when they needed to amplify the cases.
I can tell you the flu is worse than COVID. I've had the flu, and that is worse than what they claim the COVID. COVID go away after 4 days. That flu stayed for 3 months. I had the flu, and that was death, man.
Yeah, it's like the same scam as the flu shots.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same symptoms, but they say the COVID symptoms get better after 4 days. But I'm sorry, baby, you got the flu. The flu don't get better until 4 months.
And you couldn't even go out anywhere without people looking at you. Like if you were sick, being sick is part of being human. Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam got sick. The Sahaba got sick. Everyone gets sick. But yet during that time period, the only thing you could get sick from was this phony disease that they came up with the test not testing for the virus. And I explained how the test worked and what it did, numbing the sense of smell, puncturing the olfactory nerves, making you wear the mask all day. You wear a mask all day, you're going to get sick. There are people working in kitchens, in hot, steamy kitchens, wearing the mask for 8 hours in a row.
Filthy germs in that filthy cloth mask. I remember that.
Oh, yeah.
It's breathing in that filth. That's why
I wore it 2 times, and it was only because I needed my college textbooks both times.
Well, I retired.
I wore it in just for 5 minutes, and I threw that thing right back in the back pocket when I got out of it. I just needed to get my school books so I could finish my degree. And I said, okay, for one time I have to give in because they wouldn't let me in the library. But again, you couldn't go in the library but one at a time. But you could go in Walmart, you know, and be around thousands of people.
Coughing and sneezing, not covering their mouth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember recollecting, bringing back memories. I remember I had developed a cough
I was wearing a mask because they had told us we had to wear a mask. And everywhere I had to go, and if I began to cough, I would tell them I don't have COVID. Because everybody would turn around and look at me like they were ready.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And I said, I don't have COVID. And later on, I learned from a doctor that I really did not have COVID. That came from a medication that I had been given for high blood pressure. And it caused the cough. And it lasted for 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a serial sneezer. I sneeze a lot, especially like when I'm in the masjid. All the time if I pray in congregation, I will just sneeze. If I go out in public, I sneeze. It's like sneezing is a sign actually of a good immune system. It's a sign that your body is kicking stuff out. And I would always get those looks, and I'm like, guys, don't fear the boogeyman. Don't exist. It's just the flu. They changed the name to get you to take a vaccine and to lock you in your home and to ruin our quality of life. And there was so many moments you'd see of people and things that they were doing. It's like, are you that afraid to die? I mean, like, if it was real, I'm saying hypothetically it was not. COVID stands for Certification of Vaccination Identification. That's where it comes from. The new terminology, Certification of Vaccination Identification. They want to have a vaccine passport, like I talked about earlier. And they had to get a reason to start getting the ball rolling on these things. And this was a very good way of them doing it. And you're going to see Bill Gates again. We might see Dr. Fauci again. And another thing they did was the conservative side. My main theme here is always left, right. Doesn't matter left or right. Islam is right. It's always Islam is the truth. The left and the right are all just different faces of Satan. But the Republicans, what they pitched was this idea that Dr. Fauci was doing gain-of-function research. So what gain-of-function research is where you go into a virus and you improve it. You make it more transmissible. So you can use it as a bioweapon. Well, that was serving because they were recommending people take horse dewormer, ivermectin, to cure a virus that didn't even exist. So it's like you have people getting sick listening to the conservatives. People were getting sick listening to the liberals. Both were lying to you, but on different ways. You're seeing people now again, you got to get that ivermectin. You got to take ivermectin. It's like, come on, people. Again, really? Because they're saying now this might be Fauci. He gain-of-function researched this, rat virus, and now it's transmissible. It's like, come on. Same script, same lies, nothing new, under the sun, here.
And I heard a lot, too, not too long ago. They were saying that, people were talking about this, too, and they were saying there's a new COVID virus out. A new strand. It's a new strand. And people were beginning to panic all over again.
Especially in California. They were bad.
Yeah, that's where I live, California.
Because those liberals out there.
They closed all the libraries. Most of the restaurants closed down. Stores closed down. Bookstores. Because I always went to bookstores. Closed down. A lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to, I'm not going to live my life in fear. I trust in Allah. If it was real, as I laid it out, it was not. But let's say it was real for a second, hypothetically here. I'm still not going to live my life with lockdowns and masks. Because it's like, I'm putting my trust in Allah. If I die, I die. I'm going to meet Allah, and I trust in Allah will be the best of judges. I'm not going to ruin the little bit of time I have here in this dunya to make a change or make an impact and experience things for this. No. I mean, no fear. I mean, people like atheists and liberals, these are people who don't believe in God. They worship this life. They lived to 1,000 years, as the Quran said about Bani Israel. They lived to 1,000 years if they could, to escape the judgment, to escape, what comes after this life, But I'm not going to live like that, no way. Especially not with these guys saying it. When these guys are telling you. That was another thing too. Was that right before COVID, I saw a poll. Like in the end of 2019, the poll said, do you trust the mainstream media? 80% of people said no. 2 months later, you did what? You trusted the mainstream. You just said back at the end of 2019, I don't trust these guys. They've lied to me too many times. But then when they started dangling death in front of you, you said all of a sudden, oh, yeah, I believe him now. That doctor guy, he's real. And Dr. Fauci is a Jesuit. That's a whole other thing right there. Bill Gates is a Jesuit. If you look at everything in COVID, it was either a Zionist or it was a Jesuit that was behind it. I wish I still had the photo. It's called Every Aspect of COVID Was Jewish. And it shows from the CDC director, assistant director, heads of the pharmacy, the black magic companies we talked about earlier, all of them were Zionist Jews. It was like they were A to Z in this thing, all over it. No coincidence as usual. They're over something, it's not good for you. It's something that's leading you down a path that you don't want to go. And you can see it now, CDC director, it's like a Jewish seat. You know, it's always someone in that chair. And then they said you got the cross-dresser, Tedros is the head of the World Health Organization. Well, I don't believe he has any medical background, you know, at all. And then Mr. Population Control, Bill Gates.
Well, this was a very good topic and something to think about, because one reality is true. The believers on earth will be taken out by a virus, a COVID virus. That will be, and so will Prophet Jesus, alayhi salam, and that won't be a hoax. That's recorded in the prophet by the Prophet Muhammad in Sahih Bukhari. Right before the last hour comes, Allah will send a virus that will cause all the believers to die, leaving only kafirs on earth. And so anybody that survives that virus, they will be the worst human beings living, and they will all be in hell. So that's one virus that we do want to die from, but that's a long time from now. But
that's not going to come from Dr. Fauci and from the imagination.
Right, that's going to come from Allah. Exactly. So that one will be real. But this was good. Everybody here on YouTube is saying that they enjoyed this one. This was one of your best, Brother Yusuf. Everybody here enjoyed this. I want to add one more thing, not on COVID, but on Donald Trump, because it just keeps on giving this gift. He just stole $59 million from his people again for these Trump phones. Like, you pay a $100 deposit for these. I was reading this right before I went live today. I didn't even know about this. Another one of his scams. Well, he had gotten, you pay $100 for the phone up front, but in the fine print at the bottom, it said that you're not guaranteed to receive the product. What?
So they just told people today, yeah, that the phone ain't coming, but you ain't getting a refund. So boom, $59 million just taken from people for this company that he had. No phone. They just took your money. Some people paid all $500.
So he trying to do an Obama phone, but this is the Trump phone, except they ain't getting the phone.
So the taxpayer paying for it with the Obama phone. This one you pay out of your own pocket. He just stole their money.
Wow, he's really a crook.
And they keep going, all that Trump. I just heard a guy at work today, I'm so proud of our president. I just kept my mouth shut to let you know.
The Trump phone that you ain't gonna get.
Yeah. And they even told you the product didn't even exist. It was like a speculative product. And you might not get the money, you might not ever get it, but you're not getting your money back.
But you're not
going it's like a crowdfunding thing. And he just took the money.
Oh my God.
I don't know. I understand also he's having his face put on passports.
He is what?
His face, his picture's going to be on United States passports.
That sucks. I just got my passport. I'm going to have his face on mine. That's kind of
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I just got a brand new passport 2 weeks ago because I didn't want to get a real ID. And now in America, to have to fly, you got to get a real ID and deal with DMV.
I got mine too.
Passport.
Yeah, I got mine. Thank God. At least he won't be on mine.
Yeah, I was hoping it's kind of a bummer have his face on mine. That'd be.
Whew. Okay, guys, this was a good one. Inshallah, make sure everybody is here next. And by the way, the algorithm, I'm into the algorithms with this darn YouTube channel. The algorithm says that your show has boosted up our views, alhamdulillah, because your news views and the shorts I put out of yours, the people, the algorithm shows that the people like hearing about the world news. And as a break away from my Islamic classroom teachings. So this is great, Brother Yusuf. That's why your audience.
Absolutely not, because you get the Islamic knowledge on one hand, and then you have world knowledge.
That's what the algorithm is saying. I'm learning how to work this algorithm. So this is great. So I'm glad you guys have tuned in to him, and we got new people here too. This is every Friday, and starting next week at 7:15 Eastern Standard Time. So join us every Friday at 7:15 Eastern Standard Time for Brother Yusuf Speaks. They gave you a name too. I forgot what it is. I keep saying I'm gonna write it down. The algorithm has given him a name. They have code names for you. It says Yusuf something. I'll write it down when I go to it today, when I put your shorts out. Yeah, but y'all know what it is because that's what brings y'all in here. But join us every Friday at 7:15 p.m. so you guys can hear what he talks about. All your talks are interesting. The people love it. Your views are out there. And YouTube's views are not as high as Instagram and Facebook. You had 2,000-3,000 views. My God, Facebook is carrying.
I don't ever look over there.
Me neither. But Facebook is carrying us. Boy, I got a lot on Facebook too. So we got a lot of people, old school people, it seemed like, on Facebook that's carrying this website and bringing the people in. So mashallah, the algorithm is on it. So tune in again next Friday, guys. We're changing the time of this program, this show, to 7:15, but pass the word out. When I put the shorts out on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, pass it around, because like he said, he's uncensored. This is his platform. He can say what he wants, uncensored. His take on the world news is different than anybody else's. Be here and put the word out. Okay, so subhanAllah.
We're always family friendly as well.
And it is. It's family friendly. It is. Okay, guys, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. I'll be back for the Ask Sister Layla live show in about 10-15 minutes. Yeah, my topic is going to focus on love and mercy. Love and mercy, because I got questions about that. Assalamu alaikum. Be back in 15 minutes.